Hi, everyone, and welcome to Brian's Horror Corner. I'm Brian, and welcome to day 11 of my 31 horror movies in October series. Today, we'll be delving into the horror anthology area for my day 11 movie review. Um, and that is from 2013, the first, this two pack here, All Hallows Eve. I haven't watched the second one yet, but this is just on the first one. All Hallows Eve from 2013 that I'll be taking a look at today. So let's just go ahead and get into it. It was first time watch for me. Um, so I'll start up with the setup and the premise, the cast, and then I'll get into my thoughts and review, which is pretty mixed. So All Hallows Eve is a 2013 American horror anthology film, edited, written, and directed by Damien Leone in his feature film directorial debut. The film is presented as a series of shorts that two children and their babysitter discover on an unmarked videotape on Halloween night, all of which feature a homicidal clown named Art the Clown. All Hallows Eve was released direct to video by Image Entertainment. So, after a night of trick or treating on Halloween, babysitter Sarah is surprised to see that children, Tia and Timmy, have received an unmarked VHS tape in one of their bags. The children convince Sarah to allow them to watch the tape, which contains three stories, each of which feature a homicidal clown named Art. So I'm going to try to keep this spoiler free. So there are three segments. The first segment features a young woman named Casey who is drugged and kidnapped by Art the Clown while waiting for a train. The second segment features a woman named Caroline who has just moved into her countryside home by herself. Um, and at night, a bright object crashes near the house and a power outage occurs. And the third and final segment of the three features a costume designer driving down an isolated road. That's about as much as I'm going to say about each of them because I have to be careful with anthologies because it's easier to give away too much or to spoil. Um, so yeah, and then of course, we have the wraparound story that ends with a disturbed Sarah turns off the television. A home phone rings, and when Sarah answers it, she hears the costume designer from the third segment pleading for help. So I'm just going to leave it at that as far as the premise and the setup goes. I'll explain a little bit more when I get into my review of it, but it's kind of hard because I'll give too much away if I go too much into depth. As far as the cast goes, we have Katie McGuire as Sarah from the wraparound main story. Caroline Callahan as Caroline. Mazer. I think it's Mazer as costume designer from the third story. Kayla Leon as Casey. Mike Janelli as Art the Clown. Sydney Freihofer as Tia. Cole Matheson as Timmy. And Michael Chimmel as attendant slash John from the third story. So that, in a nutshell, is the unspoiled version of All Hallows Eve from 2013, as far as the cast and the premise of it goes. This was an interesting movie for me. I actually got this two pack back in like May, and I decided to save it for October for Halloween because obviously All Hallows Eve 2, those are Halloween related. So I went into this expecting to have a real like fun Halloween-y kind of anthology, and it kind of was, but it kind of wasn't. I'll kind of get into it here as I go. We'll start with the pros, though, as we always do. You got to start with Art the Clown, who is the villain in this anthology. Um, yeah, he's very disturbing. He has a great look to him. He's very menacing in his act. He kind of mocks his victims, basically. Doesn't talk. Occasionally you can hear him like having a giggle at your expense, but not a talkative villain, which to me always makes for a more heinous and scarier villain. But he's an evil villain that really doesn't hold back. I mean, once he gets started on somebody, he doesn't. There's no compassion there. There's no listening to pleads for help or anything, changing his mind. He's just very effective and scary as a creature as a villain. So I thought they did a really good job with him as far as his look everything from, like you can see, like the black makeup on the white face, like the black lips and the black. I mean, it's just, and this doesn't even do it justice, but you can see a little bit more on the back here. Just the evil smile that he has is just, it's frightening. It's the stuff nightmares are made of. So that was really effective. I thought the wraparound story, or the framing story, whatever you want to call it, with Sarah, who's the babysitter, um, and the two kids, I thought that was pretty solid. I thought it was a solid framing story, especially on how each of the individual segments tie into the framing story, or vice versa, how the framing, well, no, yeah, it'd be the three segments tie into the framing story, the wraparound story. Um, Both at the beginning, between the stories, and then especially at the end. Um, I really enjoyed the third short segment the most. I think that's by far the best segment of the shorts of the movie, um the stories. With that's the one with there's a gas station and there's a car chase, and Art the Clown is involved, and that's about as much as I want to say. But it has really good suspense, really good scares. The whole movie has a lot of gore in it, especially in this segment. It's like I said, it's definitely the strongest segment of the three. I think the low budget, grainy type quality of this movie actually makes it creepier because it gives it a more real a feel, like you're watching snuff films, basically. Very disturbing and very creepy because of that. Um, but yeah, I can say the overall movie is pretty violent and gory. So if gore is not your thing, then um, this anthology might not be for you. But it is very bloody, very gory. Um, but yeah, the low budget grainy quality actually adds something to the film. It makes it more disturbing. Getting back to the gore, they don't hold back on the blood and the gore at all, and it really helps to show how evil Art the Clown really is. Basically, disemboweling people in one particular scene. I do like the whole videotape being in the trick or treat bag aspect of it, on how it sort of triggers the movie and triggers these three separate stories. Gives us a short segments, and ultimately the ending of the movie as well. This movie, it really reminded me of a specific movie from the early 2000s, which I'm not going to mention because obviously it'll give it away. Although, talking about a videotape, if you're familiar with my channel and you've watched other movies that I've reviewed, you could probably guess what it is. But they really do use the same. It's very much in the same vein as that movie, with the premise of the videotape, and how when this Art the Clown seems to know if somebody's watched it, kind of thing. That kind of ties into the end more. Um, you can probably guess the movie that I'm getting at. If not, you'll have to watch to figure it out. Sort of breaking the fourth wall, so to speak, with somebody knows that you've watched the tape. I enjoyed that aspect of it, though, as I did in this movie I'm talking about, that I'm not going to mention. It's just kind of an interesting, different sort of different aspect of it, and a very creepy one at that. So yeah, those are my pros for All Hallows Eve from 2013. Now getting into some of the things I didn't like or that didn't work for me, the cons. When you have a movie that's named All Hallows Eve, I'm expecting to have a lot of Halloween atmosphere and stuff. And even though it's obvious that the framings part of the story took place on Halloween, it really doesn't have a lot of Halloween atmosphere. I mean, nothing outside, nothing trick or treating. It's basically after the kids have come inside, and they're going through their trick or treat bags, and this videotape is found. And really, when you watch the movie, they really could have done this on any night that a babysitter was watching two kids on any Saturday night throughout the year. I mean, it didn't have as much Halloween atmosphere as I was hoping for, as compared to like a movie like Trick or Treat or something, or the original Halloween, obviously, or even Tales of Halloween for that matter, another horror anthology. Um, it just seemed to. I don't want to say it was a gimmick, but it seemed like they were trying to set up another Halloween anthology movie, maybe with it. Because yeah, really, the three shorts as well. I mean, I know on a couple of them, apparently one of the characters is going home on Halloween or trying to get home on Halloween. But Why weren't they just trying to get home for a weekend or something? I mean, what I'm saying is you could have taken Halloween out of this and it really wouldn't have changed the movie that much. It didn't have a lot of Halloween atmosphere, in my opinion. The another big problem, it really didn't feel like a cohesive anthology. It felt more like a bunch of unrelated stories that were made at different times with different people, and they were all lumped into this one movie that they were making for this studio. Just not as tight and well put together as it should have been. I mean, one of the shorts, and specifically, which I'll get into in a little bit here, is totally really has nothing to do with with the other two shorts as well as the wraparound story. It's just kind of thrown in there because they needed three stories to make it an anthology. And but overall, it just doesn't. I think I think they did take a couple of these shorts from like a short Terrifier from 2011. I thought I read and something else. In other words, I think these a couple of these shorts were made at different times, and then they grabbed them and sort of plucked them into this All Hallows Eve movie that they made. They were directed by the same guy apparently. So I think he directed all of this, but I don't know. It's not a very cohesive anthology movie, especially for somebody like me that prides themselves on enjoying horror anthology movies. I could tell this one was far from cohesive. Getting to the worst segment or the weakest segment of the three, it's definitely the second middle segment. It felt completely out of place. It's a little bit more sci-fi. But it's completely unrelated to the overall anthology, whether it be the framing story or even the other two stories that bookend it. Um, the villain, if you want to say in this, which I'm not going to give it away, you could probably guess when I say sci-fi, looks ridiculous. He's not scary. He's not particularly strong or menacing. He looks like a villain you could basically just like run into and push over and get by him pretty easily. And then they have to try to tie it to everything else, they have one lame scene at the very end when she's being dragged away by this villain, and she pulls a cover off a certain inanimate object, and oh, there you go, it's related. It's just so dumb. Um, I didn't. One thing I didn't care for was how the during the short segments they would keep cutting back to the wraparound characters to get their reactions, like the kids and the babysitter, what was happening. I really felt like this bogged down the movie. Now, I don't mind obviously going back to the framing story and having a setup for the end like they did in this movie between the stories. But they would actually start watching one of the stories, whether it was all three of them or just the babysitter for the last two, and then something would happen early on in the movie. They'd cut back to the babysitter, kind of like cringing or something, and it's like, why? I mean, it just completely took me out of the movie. It bogged it down. It was unnecessary. Um, yeah, made it much less effective. And I also think the lack of any kind of good score to this movie was sorely missing and lacking, and it really could have made this a much more effective overall horror anthology. But those are my pros and cons. Like I said, it's a very mixed bag. I enjoy horror anthologies, especially Halloween ones. I can't say this was my favorite of either of those genres, just a regular horror anthology movie or a horror anthology Halloween type movie. But it's worth a watch. I mean, if you enjoy horror anthologies, you enjoy Halloween, and you enjoy gore and violence and a really creepy villain in this clown. It's definitely worth a watch. I watch it again. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to go out and try to sell it. I got to watch the second one too yet here shortly, but overall, it's just not as strong as it could have been. I'm sure the low budget has something to do with that, and the fact that I just think that they plucked a couple of stories that were made years before and tried to throw them in, and hoping the viewers wouldn't pick up on it. It's pretty obvious to me that it wasn't a cohesive anthology movie. So I'm going to be kind, though, and I'm going to go ahead and because I really did like the villain here. It was very scary. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.5 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 for my rating. Go ahead and comment down below, guys, if you've seen All Hallows Eve, the first one from 2013 with Art the Clown. Your pros and cons for it, what you thought of it. Go ahead and like this video. Hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my other ones coming up. You'll know when they're dropping. And please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my awesome horror content, be it the rest of the 31 horror movies in October series that I have, or what I have coming up in November. We'll be taking a look at a pretty famous television anthology and reviewing that. So, but thank you for watching this video. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.